So, yeah, this all started basically in 1875 with the invention of voice. And we still primarily consider our mobile phones to be devices we speak into, I guess. I mean, they do a lot more these days, but voice, it all started in 1875, and it's disputed that Alexander Graham Bell invented the telephone, but in Britain, that's what we say. I mean, he's a Brit, so that's what we're taught at school. Alexander Graham Bell invented the telephone, or the acoustic telegraph, in fact, in 1975, and he cleverly filed a patent for it the following year, in 1876. And and straight away, this is a device that's used for talking to other people, right? It's a social tool. It's a communicating tool. And then in 1877, the switchboard was invented. So, and this guy here definitively was the inventor of the switchboard. Tivadar Puskas invented the telephone switchboard in 1876. So straight away there's like a telephone network that connects lots of people together. So this is old stuff, right? It's always been there. It's been there for a long time. Now there weren't many milestones for a long time until 1950 when some say this was the first telemarketing company to appear in 1950. They were called Dial America, and they were the first people to sit people behind. The first business to sit people behind a desk and bother people on the phone all day. That was in 1950. So it took 25 years for the first kind of organised kind of telemarketing. You know what I'm trying to say. You know what I'm trying to say. Anyway, 1973. 1973 was a big year, and this is when it starts to get interesting for me and for you in the room, I think, as well. 1973 marked the invention of the very first cell phone. This guy invented the cell phone. His name's Martin Cooper of Motorola. Now, all our modern societal woes started here. Like, if you've ever been woken up in the middle of the night by an international call on your mobile phone because you forgot to turn it off, that he did that. He invented that. Kids like playing hip hop out of tiny speakers on the bus, really tinny and like annoying people. That's his fault as well. Happy slapping as well. You know the process of beating somebody up and filming it with a video camera that happens to be in your pocket. When I was young, no one had a video camera in their pocket. These days, everyone does because of this guy. The phone he invented was the what's it called? The Dynatrack. And he claims that he was inspired by Captain Kirk and the communicator in Star Trek. Now this phone, interestingly, weighed 1 kilogram and had 20 minutes of battery life. But the inventor said, this doesn't matter because you can't lift it for long enough to stay on the phone for that long. But I think it used to be a car phone actually. You put it straight back into the cradle by your handbrake. So anyway, all the hand-me-down from this early telephony age of all these hand-me-downs from the early age of telephony are still relevant now. And this is what I'm going to talk to you about today. That everything that's kind of pretty much existed since the invention of the telephone is still what we use now with regards to telephony. It's essentially a device for talking, but the fact that mobiles still have a microphone on them is a hard back to this, and that's really important, as we'll see later. So 1989 was the introduction of the World Wide Web, which of course was brought into people's homes due to telephone cables and wires and stuff. So, you know, it's all interlinked. This guy invented it, of course, Tim Berners-Lee. And in 1992, mobile phones had got a lot smaller, and a new service was launched known as SMS. Now, what I'm going to do now for the next sort of 1992, next 18 years, it might feel like 18 years, but in the next up until 2010, I'm going to go through what was invented when and how we're still using it today. Okay, so from now on, I'm going to show you some kind of examples, not quite case studies because there's no kind of stats and stuff, but I want to show you the broad canvas of what mobile phones can do in marketing and advertising. Okay. So, SMS. Where would we be without these useful reminders from our grocery deliverers, right? So every well, not every week, I can't afford it, but every time I order a grocery delivery, I get a text from Ocado, which is a supermarket delivery. It's a posh one. It's a posh one. And basically, yeah. So SMS was invented as a means of communication between two mobile phones, and it was initially invented.
Norway?
Huh?
Was it Norway?
It was indeed. It was indeed. But, yeah. Yes. And then. So yeah, it was invented in Norway in 1992 as a means to communicate a short message of 160 characters between two mobile phones. And yet, straight away, this is we saw pretty much, well, back in sort of 1998, I guess, people started using it for marketing purposes. And what it is a great way to respond to marketing and advertising. Here's a case study for Walker's, the crisps or potato chips company. They did a competition a few years ago, win an iPod every 5 minutes off a pack. You text in like a keyword to a short code. Does everyone know what that means? And then every 5 minutes, someone would win an iPod. That was a long time ago now, looking at the state of that iPod and the state of that mobile phone. But anyway, 5% of the UK population took part. 2.7 million visits to the website on the back of that. That would be a desktop website back then. 10% year-on-year sales increase. Basically, the point is that SMS is a really easy way to engage people over through any media. And just because it's old, it was invented in 1992, we're still using it now. It's really important. Action, interest, desire, action. I don't know if you've learned this, but it's an old advertising adage. ADA. Basically, you have to, if you want to get people to interact with your advertising or marketing through the mobile phone, then the old rules still apply. Data collection as well. I now know what everyone in the room had for breakfast when I get home and I read through these as well. But imagine if I was Dulux, the paint company, and asked you what colour you wanted to paint your front room. Or imagine if I was McDonald's and I asked you what your favourite burger was. Anyone know how many texts were sent in the world in 2010?
Hard to say.
Not bad, not bad. This man said, the stats man said 1 trillion. You're actually 5.1 out, so you're pretty close. It's 6.1 trillion texts sent in the world, which suggests to me that this stuff is easy. This stuff is something that we now do. I mean, those that texted in know that it's something you do without thinking. As we saw in that video earlier, the average amount of American teenagers send the average of 2,020 text messages a month, which I don't think is actually possible, but that's what they say. And that figure has tripled in the last 3 years as well. So who knows where it's going to go? It might drop off as smartphones and email and internet start to take hold, but with the developing nations still completely reliant on the old school networks and not using 3G so much, who knows? Who knows? Like I say, no one knows what's going to happen. By the way, the sources for this presentation aren't in this presentation. So afterwards, if we circulate this presentation, I'll make sure the sources and everything are all in there for you as well. Okay. Right. Okay. Some interesting stuff then. So this guy, right? Anyone ever seen this before? Well, this man, this guy here, whose head you can see, he just won an Oscar for Best Documentary called The Cove, which is a film about the plight of the dolphins. While he was accepting his doing his acceptance speech, this guy behind him stood up and held this banner saying "Text Dolphin to 44144." Pretty much as I just did to you just then. Within moments, there were hundreds of thousands. I think it was somewhere between 300,000 and 400,000 responses straight away to in the US to this call to action, and so basically people texted in and were sent to a mobile website where they could find out more about the movie and the plight of the dolphins and stuff. But imagine what would happen if someone did this on the biggest stage of all, like the Soccer World Cup. It'd be great for dolphins, eh? One of my favourite ever all-time examples of mobile in advertising is this one here. It's an advert for, it was a giant 6-sheet for the Audi R8 motor car, and this was in 2005. We had this call to action on there. Now listen to it. Text R8 to 86100. You did that, you were sent back basically a sound file, like a ringtone of the sound of the engine revving. But immediately that made the billboard clickable through your mobile phone, you know? It makes it immediately interactive. You can hear the sound of the car. This kind of stuff wasn't possible before. This is a nice example as well. This is in a gallery in Sweden where where visitors to the gallery were asked to engage with the paintings and ask and say what they thought the painting was saying. Does anyone speak Swedish in here? Okay, good. Well, I ran this through a translator, and the person thought this person in the painting was saying, "Ouch, my foot has gone to sleep." Anyone heard of the Nike chalkbot? Amazing. The Tour de France 3 years ago, the insight was that cyclists cycling along their route were on the road. You've probably seen it on TV that people write messages of encouragement for the cyclists on the road as they're cycling along. I don't know. Do you think they read them?
Yeah, they do.
Do they? Because I'd like to see it in an experiment whether it's possible. But anyway, you text it. Nike set up this thing through advertising where you text in your message of encouragement. The Nike chalkbot trundled along the road the next morning and wrote the messages of encouragement along the course, the track, for that day of racing.